Clara and Mr. Svarog are incredible characters. They are amazing together and outstanding on their own as well. I felt like I couldn't really find a way to talk about one without talking about the other one though. Their concept of a big robot that takes care of someone but lacks the emotions to do so, and a child who has yet to experience much of the world but is growing amongst humans and robots is incredible. I love the way that Clara has been growing throughout the story and how this growth even translates itself further into Mr. Svarog's character. Like, we used to see Svarog as this menacing and fearsome robot, but seeing the bond that he and Clara have and all the little things that he does not only for Clara but for all the vagrants makes me adore him so much more and shows how he is also moving forward and learning to integrate things into his system, that he is now thinking beyond variables. He's thinking outside of the concept of ones and zeros that machines normally do. In this video, I want to cover both characters as a whole, going over their gameplay, flavor design, and impact that they have provided for the game and why they are so freaking wonderful. For more context on these categories, please feel free to watch my video on Star Rail's best designed characters, where, fun fact, I did get to talk in detail about Clara, but this time we're going so much more in depth. But regarding the categories once more, in short, gameplay relates to anything related to the combat system of Star Rail. This would mean skills, ultimates, mechanics, just however they function. Flavor design is kind of the opposite, where it encompasses most of the things that are not gameplay based, such as animations, aesthetics, clothing, the way that they are, their characteristics, and personally one of my favorite categories and the one that I'm most biased towards. And last but not least, we have impact, which refers to whatever impact they have had in the story, whether it be to the lore as a whole, to another character's lore, or if another character had an impact on the mentioned character that we're going over today. With all that being said though, let us see why Clara and Mr. Svarog are perfectly designed. I want to start by covering a bit of what I had previously mentioned in the past video, with the fact that Clara is our one and only connection with the vagrants. As far as I'm aware, people in Boulder Town do interact with people from the vagrant camp. However, there's always been tension between both parties. But Clara is the only one who has been able to freely walk between Boulder Town and the vagrant camp without any problems because of how she is. Clara wants to help all the people of the Underworld, for she considers them all family and wants them to get along, and is friends with many residents in Boulder Town, as well as being the one that made it possible for the vagrants to be able to settle down their camps and coexist with robots. It is in fact because of Clara that many vagrants are able to survive Belobog's hard conditions, and look up to her and care for her as well. They even go as far as to call Mr. Svarog Boss Svarog, because they do respect him a lot, beyond the fact that they would all likely be decimated by him if they try to do anything funny. They do respect him. After all, they owe the two of them their lives. Like, they literally even made a whole group called the Clara Protection Squad, because they care that much for her. And they even try to give her shoes to make sure that she doesn't hurt herself because of the fact that she walks barefoot all the time. Even though she doesn't wear shoes because, you know, she tends to fall whenever she wears them. So, I don't know, that's just a funny little detail that I thought was, I don't know, a bit comical per se. And honestly, one of the funniest things about the Clara Protection Society is that there's a readable poster that you can obtain. And one of the things that it mentions in its small print is that members should refrain from the following. Number 3 being, form any kind of familial relationship with Boss Svarog in order to get closer to Clara. These relationships include, but are not limited to, Adoption, meaning somebody wanted to either be adopted or adopt Mr. Svarog, which is concerning. Sworn siblings, which, okay, I can kind of get behind that. And marriage, meaning, technically speaking, that at some point, one of these individuals tried to marry Mr. Svarog to get closer to Clara. Otherwise, why would this be written here? Why would they have the necessity to write down that you cannot marry Mr. Svarog? That being said though, despite how wholesome Clara's new family is, it is rough to see that Clara's blood family is nowhere to be seen. She is an orphan girl that Mr. Svarog found in a landfill of all places, southwest Boulder Town. She appears to have been at an age where she would be able to talk, but she wasn't really trying to communicate much in the moment. And Mr. Svarog even makes a remark about this and the fact that he sees her in a mental state that was relatively unstable. And we do not know what happened to Clara's parents, meaning that they could be potentially dead or at minimum have gone missing if they haven't abandoned her, but we can never really know for sure what Clara's parents are doing or what they did. I don't know, it's something that does worry me personally, and I'm hoping that we do get closure on this, but it's gonna be traumatic, I feel, and I'm scared for that. Moving on, I'd like to go over the bond that Clara and Mr. Svarog have, because it genuinely warms my heart seeing how they have a whole adoptive father and daughter connection going in for them. As previously stated, Mr. Svarog took Clara in and took care of her ever since he found her. He raised her in a way that he thought would be most appropriate and logical. He even states this in Clara's character story part 3.
Most humans behave illogically, but Clara doesn't. She is raised by me and grew up among automatons, and her behavior is more based on pure rationality. Her presence may impact predicted calculations of Bellowbog's demise, but more observations are required.
Also, I would like to add that it is such a nice detail that all of Clara's character stories are told as saved entry logs within Mr. Svarog's database, and it is so adorable to hear how proud he is of her in this entry. Speaking of character stories, Clara's second story is also one of the most wholesome ones and one of my favorite ones. It shows how Clara, despite being introverted, started to actually communicate more with people, and it is all thanks to Hook. In the first log, Mr. Svarog mentions how adept and skilled Clara is, but that she resists talking to other humans. For any and all kind of interactions that she has had in the past, they have been purely with robots until that day. And the one that changed all of this was when she went to Boulder Town and encountered Hook.
Clara's contact with Hook didn't go well at first. She displayed considerable shyness. However, Hook managed to keep up the conversation going with extreme enthusiasm and empathy, calling Clara an honorary member of the Moles. After contact, Clara described Hook as her first friend. This matter is of tremendous significance to Clara, as this log has been tagged important.
That last phrase honestly makes me so happy, and it makes me adore Mr. Svarog that much more. It also explains why all three of them appear in the Dance 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 light cone. Even though I know none of them are part of the harmony because they're all destruction, I just would like to mention this because it just means that this was such a precious memory that it was able to become a light cone. And I don't know, it just feels absolutely incredible and it just fills me with joy. However, despite the fact that Mr. Svarog takes care of Clara like a father would, and honestly to the best of his abilities, he at no point considers himself as her father. He is her guardian, but not her father. This is because of the way that he processes information. He thinks of everything in a very logical and rational manner, and whatever his calculations say, that is the law. Because Clara isn't his biological daughter, it is impossible for him to consider himself her father. Despite the fact that Clara considers him her father, or at least she wants him to be. We can see this in Clara's annoyances voice line.
It's hard to get Mr. Svarog to act out a movie with me. He only wants to play trees or rocks. I wanted him to be the dad.
Honestly, that last sentence made me feel so sad because she does want to have a connection to Mr. Svarog, which he struggles to accept. And furthermore, in Clara's character story 4, we even see that Mr. Svarog is still on the lookout for Clara's blood-related parents.
I will focus on finding Clara's family. Despite Clara insisting that she has already found her real family, I will keep collecting any and all information to track down Clara's real family as soon as I can.
In here, we can see that Mr. Svarog understands that Clara wants to be with her family, and that is why she has formed this family with the people of the Underworld and the Vagrants as well. However, still, as it is Clara's desire to have a family, he still seeks to find her quote-unquote real family to fulfill Clara's wishes according to what his programming states, because again, everything is true or false, and emotions are not usually considered by Mr. Svarog's database itself. But I do want to say that this is one of the things that I do enjoy in the fact that, like, Clara does have family. The whole Underworld is now her family, and it genuinely makes me so happy that it is because of her connection that people can finally live at peace together at once. Like, when we arrived at the Underworld, we hear about the conflict, the problems with the geomarrow, the energy deficiency, that both Wildfire and the Vagrants are at each other's throats, and I don't know, it just feels nice that they can finally coexist. And like, we even see them interacting both in like Boulder Town and in the robot settlement throughout missions such as like Hook and Lucas companion mission. And I don't know, it just feels great. It shows how much friendlier all of them are, and it is literally a future that they're moving forward. Now, in terms of gameplay, I personally adore the fact that Clara and Mr. Svarog revolve around counterattacks. It perfectly embodies the concept of Mr. Svarog watching over Clara and taking care of her and making sure that nothing bad or any damage befalls her. Anytime that Clara is targeted for an attack, he will spawn out of nowhere and protect her from getting hit. Then he follows up this by absolutely shooting a laser at the enemy that dared attack Clara, and that laser does a lot of damage in all honesty. Now, whether it is because the skilling on that thing is insane, or because I gave my Clara 0 speed and attack boots, I do not know. I just know that it has helped me clear so much content. Additionally, this concept of Mr. Svarog protecting Clara is further enhanced by the fact that both their ultimate and the marks of counter synergize so well with the flavor. Like, I love the fact that marks of counter essentially translate to, you hurt Clara, so now I will hurt you that much more. Because it essentially allows Clara's skill to do double damage, which is absolutely wonderful and insane if I do say so myself. And on the other hand, I adore how Clara's ultimate just translates to, you dared make her cry, and now for that, I shall end you. Like, literally, the way that he appears standing over Clara in order to protect her, but he still has this like menacing look towards the opponent is so spectacular that it makes me adore their design that much more. And this is further enhanced in my opinion by the fact that Clara's ultimate makes it so that any ally that gets hit, Mr. Svarog will counterattack. Like, it just feels that, you know, because Clara cares about her friends, and Mr. Svarog is now, like, you know, even more ticked off by the opponent, he's gonna make sure that nothing the enemy does will be anything that will upset Clara. So at any kind of aggression, he immediately reacts to an attack, just making him feel that much more aggressive. But I adore that so much. Oh, that just it's great, and I love the fact that this kind of protection goes both ways. While in the gameplay, of course, Mr. Svarog is protecting Clara. In the storyline, when we beat Svarog, legitimately, there was a point in time that I believe Natasha was about to shoot him, was about to murder a robot, and I don't know, just the fact that Clara stepped in and was there to try to protect Svarog, just like how he protects her, made me feel like sad, you know, that like that was happening. Made me feel sad for the fact that Clara's father was essentially getting hit and she wanted to protect him. And I don't know, I just feel like the way that they've been making like the narrative was absolutely beautiful, and I personally just adore it so much. And in all honesty, one of the things that I adore is that to Mr. Svarog, Clara is irreplaceable, and that is no exaggeration. Their signature light code is called Something Irreplaceable, which displays a picture of Clara being held by Mr. Svarog's arm, with her being incredibly happy. But what makes me adore this light code that much more is the flavor text, which reads, "Should a day come when I'm not here anymore, please look after this database, Svarog."
Who is this? Why is this message in my records?
Do you have something that's irreplaceable, Svarog? To which she follows by saying,
Irreplaceable, broken parts can simply be replaced.
"You'll definitely find it one day, Svarog."
Such things will only cause trouble.
And then finally being ended with, "When that time comes, you should leave this place behind." What I personally adore about that like message, right, is how it shows the old Svarog and how much he has changed. Because while there's a mysterious figure that we do not know who he's talking to, it's so interesting that he's, you know, he used to just say like, I can just replace anything. Like there's nothing in my needs that I can't find a replacement for. Or worst case scenario, he can make them, right? But now, and even then, you know, like when they're saying like, oh, like you'll definitely find it someday, he says like, oh, like those things that would potentially be related, like attachment, emotions, things that would be irrelevant to Mr. Svarog, he claims that they would only cause problems. Yet now, he's no longer in that place where all of this happened. He's hanging out with Clara, he's hanging out by the vagrant camps. He has found that which is irreplaceable to him, and he shows in here, I feel like, a little bit of emotion, even if he's a robot. And I don't know, it just genuinely shows how much he cares for Clara, even to the point that he himself is breaking the programming that he is bound by, and that again he considers to be law. And that is just beautiful. Something else that I personally adore is the relationship that Clara has with automatons and how knowledgeable she is in regards to these mechs and their replacement parts. In the Lycon shared feeling, it displays both Natasha and Clara tending to their own needs, and it shows how one day Natasha had stumbled upon Clara when she was wounded and took her back to her doctor's office in order to take care of her. When she found her, she had a broken machine and many replacement parts in her pocket. This is because she was out trying to find replacement pieces in order to fix the robot and to make sure that by the time that she was done with it, it would be able to be up and running again. To Clara, the robots are like people. They are dear to her. We can honestly see that in both Clara's companion mission and the Trailblaze mission, through Pascal and Perkins respectively. And because of that, she puts in all her effort in order to fix them and make sure that they are as well, just as Natasha does for her patience. And honestly, it's just absolutely beautiful. Also, mentioning Pascal here, I still have the voice lines from that quest haunting me of that little robot being in pain, needing replacement parts, feeling horrible. And it just fills me with so much sadness when we had to beat the hell out of that robot. So if you don't feel bad about Pascal, I don't know what to say to you. I just felt awful, and the fact that we had the options to terminate Pascal made me sad, but I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad that we were able to fix Pascal. But on that topic, I do have to say that, again, like, it does make me happy that not only do we fix Pascal, but also in the Trailblaze mission itself, we see how Perkins got fixed. That at one point he was able to struggle to speak if you return afterwards to the robot settlement and you talk to Pascal now, he's able to talk up like normal, and it's absolutely wonderful. So I don't know, again, just seeing that like level of commitment that Clara gives to the mechs is just incredibly nice, and I adore it so much. But getting back on topic, I do genuinely adore that Clara going out of her way for machine parts and resources is a common thing that happens in the Underworld. We see this in both the Trailblaze mission, when we encounter her in Rive Town with Perkins, and surprisingly in Clara's introduction by Pom Pom in a HoYoLab post. This post further solidifies the fact that Clara wants to have a family of her own, that she was the one that awakened Svarog, and hence why he wants to make sure that she was safe, and that Clara is now someone that accidentally scares people. In the post, we see the following extract. Before long, the usually self-serving prospectors were united as one under the leadership of Svarog. Around the same time, a mysterious prospector was spotted in the Fragmentum, a red-hooded specter, adept at retrieving rare relics from the most dangerous places. Terrified prospectors call this ghostly figure the Bloody Rabbit. And honestly, that sounds absolutely sick, but I do find great that Clara goes, through all this trouble in order to keep people safe and retrieve things that would genuinely help out both robots and vagrant camp residents. And yes, Clara's meant to be a representative of a rabbit, because both her hoodie and the text box that we get for free pretty much represent this. Again, even the shared feeling light cone shows her with her hoodie, and you can see her as a rabbit there. Finally, the last topic that I want to go over is Mr. Svarog and some miscellaneous but also amazing things that I have learned. And I want to go over a bit of a wild concept that my brain has cooked up that relates Svarog to Greek mythology. Now, I do know that Svarog is a Slavic god, so just hang in there with me for a moment and I will explain. But first, I do want to cover the little miscellaneous things. And firstly, it is that, one of the things that I adore is still how Mr. Svarog is called Boss Svarog by the residents of the Underworld. Whether it be that you were in like Rive Town or Boulder Town or the Vagrant Camp, everybody knows him as Boss Svarog, and the fact that he is part of ancient Belobog technology means that he follows Klipoth the Preservation. In fact, it is one of the most important things that he always takes into consideration whenever he takes an action in his directives. In both plans that he took a part of, these ones being when he tried to imprison everybody in the Underworld and when he helped out Topaz, his priorities was to make sure that people and their lives were to be kept safe above all else. This is also something that makes me adore the fact that he protects Clara, and just as a whole, I love being able to know what the mentality of Mr. Svarog is. Additionally, if him being called Boss Svarog wasn't enough, well, he does have a boss fight of his own. And literally, the name of the song that plays when you fight him is called Godfather, which is such a badass and incredible title for an OST. Like, that literally solidifies him even further as like the boss of the Underworld, and the one that is in charge of the vagrants that are somewhat criminal in nature, to be honest, because at least in the moment we do see them as villains. Also, the fact that he's able to summon a lot of assistants to help him throughout the fight is just perfectly amazing to what would be the essential equivalent of a mob. And I do adore that, I don't know, these robots are just bursting in to help and beat the hell out of your party. And even in his last phase, the fact that these robots are essentially hands specifically made by Mr. Svarog is so incredible, especially because they are able to take your character hostage and make you suffer. In every aspect, his boss fight is beautifully done and has made me so hyped up. I just wish we could hear the boss OSTs more often than just once, because those songs are absolute bangers. But that little tangent aside that I got into there for a moment, I finally do want to go over this topic, and it is that the way that Mr. Svarog is related to Greek Mythos, in my perspective, is because of all of the robots that we currently see in the Underworld. For context, Svarog is the Slavic equivalent of the god Hephaestus, the god of smithing, which is fitting given how he essentially crafts his whole army and helpers in the shape of these robots. But the one detail that I adore is how all of these robots only have one eye, and this feels like an interesting parallel to Cyclops, the beings that used to be the smiths of the gods until Hephaestus arrived. Hephaestus took the job of the Cyclops, and the Cyclops became his helpers. And yes, I looked at all of the robots. The spider and the beetles have a little eye at the bottom of their model, or at least that's what I anticipate is their eye, because otherwise I would not be able to understand how spiders are able to see. And beetles have like traffic lights there that aren't working, so that is my interpretation, at least for these two. So do take that with a grain of salt. Grizzlies and hounds have a lot of light, but I feel like many of these lights are just for the sake of illuminating rather than vision, with one of them being truly for vision. So that is why I consider them to have only one eye. And last but not least, dire wolves, yeah, they do only have one eye, and they're like the most obvious example. And well, I feel like this one didn't have to go much without saying, but Mr. Svarog also too has one eye himself. So I don't know, I just found it really cool that all these little, you know, all the helpers and the creators of just like the robots only had one eye in this scenario. So yeah, it's just absolutely great. And before anybody says anything, Svarog's hands that he summons in the last phase do not have eyes. I tried to look everywhere, but I feel like these ones make no sense for them to have eyes because Mr. Svarog is the one that controls them. So yeah, I don't know, I feel like they're an extension of his being rather than, you know, their own entities themselves. Also, this is like a last minute addition, but I forgot to say that apparently Mr. Svarog is a prototype, and it's the third one at that. So meaning there are at least two other more of Mr. Svarog somewhere in the world, and we've actually encountered one of them in the mining event. There was one where we went into like a mini dungeon of sorts. I'm putting like an image so you guys can see, but apparently the Mr. Svarog that we fought there wasn't actually Svarog. It was the prototype, the monitoring automaton prototype 2. So the previous version of Mr. Svarog. So fun little fact. I still am wondering if we will meet the first one, or if there's like a fourth one, and because these guys are prototypes, what would be the finalized version of Mr. Svarog? I'm very concerned, very confused, but I'm very excited to learn about that. But yeah, if you have watched all the way up to this video, first of all, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And as always, it really does mean a lot to me that you all have been commenting and just leaving in the replies so many different like theories or like things that you adore about a character or any other characters that were mentioned. I genuinely adore this little corner of the community that we have stumbled upon, and it blows my mind because last video, I think we were at 870 something subscribers, and currently in the time that I'm recording this, we are at 1,142, and that is just like mind-blowing for me that like the channel has been growing a lot. We're currently YouTube partners, so holy shit, my brain is just like all over the place. I probably shouldn't swear so much because then YouTube will be like, no, you're no monetized anymore. But no, that being said, I do want to make a quick reminder that if you guys have not subscribed to the channel, definitely be sure to do so. It's free, it only takes a second, and it really helps out the channel so freaking much. And in the worst case scenario, and if you feel like, you know, I'm not like delivering the proper content, or if you feel like my quality is dropping, you're more than welcome to unsubscribe. I do want to try to perfect and improve upon every single video, so thank you very much for everyone that's been giving feedback and for all the support. I'm very thankful for each and every single one of you guys. I'm very glad that everyone has been here through this weird journey of ours, and that we all are getting to enjoy discussing about character designs, their voice lines, the way that they are, the lore of the game, the way that they play. It's absolutely incredible, and I don't know, I like that there is this little corner that we currently have that is for us to not care at all about gameplay. Like, sure, gameplay is fun and we can talk about gameplay and it's enjoyable, but we can also talk about so many different things that I feel like no other content creator would normally speak about. So I don't know, I'm just glad that we have stumbled into this community, and a big thanks goes to each and every single one of you, and also a special thanks to my girlfriend, because without her I wouldn't have started this series. Without her, this entire series would not have existed. So if you're able to listen to this, just type in the comments, thank you, Manny's girlfriend, because genuinely, she's absolutely incredible, and she deserves the entire world for being so supportive and caring and wonderful, and it just makes me the happiest. Also, something that I want to mention as well is that I looked at my analytics, and it blows my mind that the people that are subscribed, that are watching these videos, is currently at 6.5%, and I never even imagined that I would reach that number above 5. So that's a cause for celebration. I am just mind blown. I'm happy. I'm just genuinely, thank you guys. You all are so freaking awesome, and I know that I'm making like this outro way longer than it probably has to be. So yeah, I'm just gonna wrap it at that one more time. Just, I appreciate you all. Thank you for watching. I hope you'll have a wonderful morning, afternoon, night, whatever time zone you're currently watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.